It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
What a rainy week we've had, but that's not going to stop us from bringing you yet another edition of A Cup of Coffee with Wild Will and Uncle Chris from right here at Slumberland at the lake. And Uncle C, I say it every week the last few weeks, but all I could start thinking about is football.
Yeah, it's coming fast, man, and I'm excited about it. I was so glad to be wrong last year. I thought the Chiefs didn't have it, they were weak, and they go on and win the Super Bowl, baby.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it may not have even been their best team. It's still able to do that. So we're going to talk some football, plus I stumbled on a pretty cool article from a radio station, and it was titled, How Missouri Made the Lake of the Ozarks, Crime, Sunken Homes, and Dreams of a Midwest Oasis.
Yeah.
Kind of an interesting piece. We'll break that down a little bit, but also going to talk about, the boat crash.
Yep.
Just crazy. It was a Nortec, and it flipped, and 7 people were injured. Well, we have an update on that. Plus, that's going to change some things for Good Boy Vodka and X Insurance, because Alex Pratt, one of the injured in that accident, was actually their driver. And so they've made some changes. We'll tell you about that. Plus, new cell phone law in Missouri. Do you see that?
Call me.
Yeah, call me. Phones down while you're in the car. Talk about that, plus Hometown Hero, as well as a whole bunch of other weekly tidbits around the Lake of the Ozarks, that and a whole lot more. But first, it started a couple weeks ago. It's still going on, the 56th anniversary sale right here at Slumberland Furniture. They got some crazy deals going on. You got to check it out.
Hey everybody, Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. We're celebrating 56 great years. You need to come check out our 56th anniversary sale. We have savings for every room of the house. And don't forget, we're going to give away that free car. We deliver the entire lake area. And don't forget, we have some great 0% interest offers. You get the savings and 0% interest. Come see us, Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
All right, so as we get started this week, KCUR 89.3, local radio station in Missouri, they came out with a segment and they turned it into an online article titled, How Missouri Made the Lake of the Ozarks, Crimes, Sunken Homes, and Dreams of a Midwest Oasis. Now, a little bit misleading, really, in that title, but it lays out the history back from the early 1920s, from the two investors that really envisioned the Lake of the Ozarks becoming what it is, but it talked about some of the growing pains, some of the obstacles they had to overcome to do that. I just thought it was so fascinating as you look back at the history of really how did the Lake of the Ozarks come about.
Yeah, it's a great, amazing story, and there are a couple of old books out there, like Buford Foster's book kind of talks about it, and he was one of the main people that started kind of the city of Camdenton and all that stuff, and kind of the lake area. But he talked about how politicians would come in with cash, just handing out cash to make sure they'd vote, to put in the dam and all that stuff. It wasn't all clean. It was a little dirty, or maybe a lot dirty, but it turned into what it is today.
Yeah, and through the article, so much good information, but the two were lawyer Ralph Street, who was a Kansas City real estate developer, and he connected with Walter P. Cravens, who was the president of the Kansas City Joint Stock Land Bank, and he controlled foreclosure properties in Kansas and Missouri. And Peake said, now the plan was to trade. We'll go down to the Ozarks, we'll tell these people in the Ozarks that, hey, we'll give you land in Kansas or Missouri that's actually farmable, and that way they don't mind giving up their property. Well, so Street and Cravens created the Missouri Hydroelectric Power Company and a cover corporation called the Farmers Fund, Inc. to deal with the transfer of bonds and mortgages. Now, it got a little murky along the way. Not everyone was as receptive.
Well, it wasn't. They found out it wasn't really even legal to do that, right?
And so some people didn't take them up on the offers to relocate, and they were confused by the deal, and they didn't want to go or didn't like what the offer was. And during that time, more than 20,000 people worked to build the dam that created the Lake of the Ozarks, and that was between 1929 and 1931. And what's interesting, if you remember, that was part of the Depression era. And so jobs were not plentiful, and relocation and trying to make ends meet was a commonplace, but this provided a lot of jobs, but it also caused a bunch of controversy over the years. But I'm telling you, I don't want to spoil it. I just thought it was neat to see it broken down. There's a 33-minute, 25-second audio recording, like a podcast series on this. And they talk to people that owned property back in the day. They talk to family members of these two men and what that period was like for them. Pretty cool. And it also goes on to talk a little bit about the changes of the lake that we talk about so frequently here from back in the day. And it even talked about the old Lynn Creek. And there was 2 other towns that were flooded and covered, and then came, Lynn Creek in Camdenton. Just fascinating to me. If you love history, you got to check that out. And if you look in our comments, I'll remember here on Facebook and YouTube to drop the link for you guys to check that out, because it's just super fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And it talks about in the story, misappropriation of funds related to the lake project landed Walter P. Cravens in prison for fraud in 1933. So just as the dam was done getting built and the water was backing up and the lake began, he was going to prison for some of his shenanigans in putting it all together. Now, the other guy, the other partner, Mr. Street, turned out to be clean. He was fine. He was doing it right. And he ended up joining, I think, the electric company, which was behind, of course, the dam in the first place and everything.
Was Slavens the one who was found to have a separate fund to pay off politicians?
I think
and
so.
And that was what got him in trouble?
Yeah, I think so.
When they audited his books, he literally had a line item like, bribery money for legislators and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can see this stuff has happened for a long time, right? Yeah.
Hey, listen, the Biden way is no new way, okay? It's been done for years.
Yeah,
okay?
oh yeah, it's, what do they say? It's the second oldest profession, right? Yeah, absolutely.
He's just perfected it, our president.
Wow.
Well, him and his son, Hunter. And that's not here nor there. We won't go down that rabbit trail. All right, so listen, that boat crash that happened, that's really been the headline the last week.
Everybody's
across the Lake of the Ozarks. You saw that hit Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, the Daily Mail. It hit everywhere. And we have an update. I understand that there have been charges filed or against the driver of the boat.
Absolutely. So the driver of that crash, let's see, it happened on July 22nd, has been charged with 7 felonies. 7 felonies now. Adam Ramirez, Huntington Beach, California. He was driving the Nortec powerboat about midnight when it struck the shoreline at the peninsula. It flew up, it hit that house. Okay, so he's been charged with 2 counts of boating while intoxicated, serious injury Class D felony, and 5 counts of boating while intoxicated and injury, that's a Class E felony. And Camden County Prosecutor Rochelle Grosvenor told Lake Expo that more charges on top of these could be coming. She might not be done yet.
Yeah, and sad situation. Still an absolute miracle that these 7 individuals lived.
Yeah.
One of the 7 individuals, Alex Pratt, age 28, pretty good name down here at the lake, very well known, especially in the racing industry. A little bit of misconception and misunderstanding I've seen online on a lot of the threads. Some real derogatory marks towards Alex Pratt, almost as if they believed he was the driver. But the young man who was not driving was a passenger on the boat. His injuries that he sustained in the crash, as reported by Speedboat Magazine, required over 100 stitches in his back, which is absolutely crazy. Now, following that boat accident, the team's throttleman and part owner, Alex Pratt, who I just told you was on that, his injuries were so serious that the team, their president, Rick Lindsay, who's CEO, president, and chairman of the principal team sponsor of Good Boy Vodka, which is X Insurance, made the decision in the best interest of their team, and they're going to pull Alex Pratt, the driver, as well as, or the throttleman, as well as his driver, and they're going to be replaced by Grant Brugman and our very own that we know, Randy Kent, who has recently been named the team manager. Now, they race in the very competitive Class 1, and so Pratt and Miles, they're out, replaced by Brugman and Kent. Kent and Brugman both have a vast, wide history in powerboat racing. Both have won world championships. But it's interesting because for Randy Kent, as we shift our focus from the boat accident that took place on the lake to the racing industry, that's an impressive team. And for them, on short notice, to be able to change driver and throttleman with 2 historied, experienced, accomplished racers such as Brugman and Kent. That's good for them. It'll be interesting to see. As Randy Kent's a guy on Marine Concepts down here at Lake of the Ozarks.
Yeah.
He's in the Lake of the Ozarks Shootout Hall of Fame for his contributions. Be interesting to see what it's like now that he makes that transition back to driving, because we thought those days were behind him.
Yeah, I didn't even know he was that class of a driver. But I think Randy can do just about anything. He kind of reminds me of Superman,
He looks like Randy Kent.
I'm telling you what, this dude is something else. So I think he'll probably do pretty well. You know what surprised me the most about this whole thing? That this Alex Pratt, 28 years old with a serious injuries, that he was even on that boat. He's a professional boat guy. He knows all about boats. Why in the world would you be on a boat with some dude that's intoxicated going 60 or 80 miles an hour at midnight? You'd think he'd be smarter than that, and not be on that boat. But sometimes when alcohol's involved, you stop thinking, right? So.
Right, and you never know, too. I mean, were they at a place they got picked up by? I mean, you just never know. It's hard to say. And it is easy to look at not only the driver, because just a terrible decision, risking everybody's lives, but I know over my history how many times I've made a poor choice in judgment and gotten away with it. And we do that when we're young. We do that over the course of our life. And I've been fortunate enough to never pay the ultimate price or never have this happen. But as everyone out there, like you're upset with the people on there, why do it, and the driver. I tend to have some empathy, because they very well could have been drunk going home, got home, no one would have known. They get up the next morning and go on about their life, not saying it's okay, not promoting or saying that driving after you have alcohol in your system is good, especially on a boat. But I tend to have some empathy, because once you have a couple of drinks, your judgment is lapsed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think we've all been there where we've done stupid stuff. We were driving intoxicated or whatever, and nothing happened. We got away with it. And you're right, that's the grace of God right there.
They really got away with it too, where it ultimately matters.
Well, they're still alive, right?
Because the grace of God stepped in, and they're all still alive, of course. We'll keep you posted on that. And I'm really interested to see, not to take the focus away from the injuries, but I'm really excited to see what Randy Kent and this Grant Brugman do, because I'm telling you what, it's been a while since Randy Kent's been behind the wheel of a speedboat, and this is a very competitive class, very, very competitive, probably the most followed class in all of professional speedboat racing. So, and this team's supposed to contend. I mean, they're expecting a podium finish this year at Key West through P1. Be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, well, it'll be very interesting. I wouldn't put anything past Randy Kent, though.
No, especially if he's got his cape on, and he's flying around. So, all right, so as we move ahead, new cell phone law for the state of Missouri issued. A new Missouri law will make it illegal for drivers to hold their cell phones in their hands while behind the wheel. It's called the Siddons-Benning Hands-Free Law, and legislators named it that after 34-year-old Randall Siddons of Columbia died from the injuries he sustained after being hit by a driver in 2019 who was video chatting on a cell phone and speeding. Siddons' widow, Stephanie Benning, shared her memories of her husband's death with KRCG, who this article is from, and the impact it had on her family. The pain and loss suffered by Benning's family caused her to fight for change in the Missouri legislature. The new law required all drivers in Missouri to use hands-free cell phone features while behind the wheel. Benning said the new law will save lives. We're using our story to change history. I wanted to show my kids, my family, and my friends that even in tragedy, we can use our story to change history. I really, really wanted to raise victors and not victims. She says the world has enough victims. Victors can change things, which I love. Now, the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety reported there were nearly 200,000 distracted driving-related crashes that killed more than 800 people between 2012 and 2021. Now, AAA officials said distracting driving in Missouri has actually become an epidemic. Their spokesperson, Nick Chabaria, said laws and legislation are only one component to changing drivers' behaviors. We see it as a three-system approach with laws enforcement as well as public education. Now, Chris, I found it interesting that the new law does not allow Missouri law enforcement officers to pull someone over solely for distracted driving. Officers must witness another offense such as speeding or crossing the center line before they can add a separate texting and driving offense. So that's interesting because really law enforcement is kind of handcuffed on enforcing that, because if they see you driving down the road with your phone right here, if you're not speeding, if you're driving within the lines, they really can't pull you over for that alone, meaning that would get thrown out or would be inadmissible in court. So interesting, because I feel like, I don't know how effective that's going to be unless you have other reason to pull someone over, but it is a new law that everyone needs to be mindful of. Make sure you put your phones down, have your eyes up, and try to switch to a hands-free device. It's easier now than ever before with Bluetooth. These new cars, a lot of them drive themselves. Yeah. Make it easy to communicate with your phone.
Yeah, and this is an important thing. Our society has changed so that these are so incredibly important for most all of us now, and we do so much work on these things. They're basically computers, and so it can be very, very, very easy, and I'm guilty of it, where you're driving down the road and you're, texting back about a business deal or, something along those lines, and it really is very unsafe.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. It's just, unfortunately, it's something that we have to take into account. And our area is getting so busy traffic-wise now. I mean, the traffic is just so heavy on 54 and 5 and all that stuff. So it's just pretty important, I think. It's a good thing.
It's a good to remind each other, too, that I love you. I don't want something to happen to you. And I'm guilty as well. It's just so easy to do.
Oh, it is, yeah.
When you're busy and you got a car ride, you feel like you have things, but it takes that one time, as in this situation, and left behind a wife and kiddos. I mean, very sad situation. That's the reality for all of us. That could be us. So phones down, eyes up. Make sure you pay attention to the road.
Yeah, and don't use the excuse that we're not in the big city. I mean, that is a whole element, driving in city traffic and stuff. But here we have our own issues. We've got steep cliffs. We've got quick drop-offs on narrow roads.
Windy roads.
All those things make it more difficult to drive here than it would in the city, and a phone is just going to run you off the road. So, yeah.
And they say two things that are important, that 69% of all accidents happen within 2 miles of your house, and secondly, 90% of all statistics are made up on the fly. Very good.
Right.
As we move forward, our fourth local story, getting back with our Central Ozarks Medical Center hometown hero. This week we are highlighting and recognizing Allison Klein. Allie lives in Climax Springs with her husband Seth, and she's a real estate agent with Reese Nichols, was even recently awarded the 2022 Platinum Level Award of Excellence by the Lake Ozarks Board of Realtors. Allie's very passionate about her community and is a constant supporter and sponsor to events such as free back-to-school haircuts and supplies, free breakfast for veterans and active military on Veterans Day. She sends lunch to the teachers, the FFA department. She even opened her home to farm the Ag Science 1 class this spring. They went to meet Frog the bottle calf, and students actually got to witness the process and participation in feeding the calf from start to finish. She supports the school when students are selling any fundraisers. The lady Angie Walters Duncan, who nominated her, said that she delivered several dozen chocolate-covered strawberries to multiple businesses and people that she had purchased from my son. So not only was she supporting the fundraiser, buying for other people, and Angie said that she took the day off work because there were so many deliveries. She purchases numerous books at the school fair to give to kids who aren't able to buy anything, and she's also a member of the Climax Springs Booster Club. Angie goes on to say she once made a monetary donation along with a pallet of drinks for the high school baseball team. She's been a sponsor and a coach to Biddy Ball team, and she's such an inspiration to our town. We're truly blessed to have her, and I'm sure I missed something because she's always involved in so much. Anything the community needs, she's there to answer. Both Allie and her husband Seth work hard and play even harder. You will find them on a mountain or at the ocean when they're not giving back to others. Angie Walters Duncan goes on to say, "Thank you, Allison, for all you do for us in Climax Springs." That's Allison Klein, nominated by Angie Walters Duncan, this week's Central Ozarks Medical Center's hometown hero. Good work, Allie.
Absolutely, man. It's so important to have people like that in the community helping out. What a boost for Climax Springs, right?
Yeah.
To have somebody like that in that community helping out. That is just fantastic.
Yeah, and young too. I mean, very accomplished in real estate, professionally, very active. You heard her husband loved to go out. And so to give so much of herself to others, very selfless, and that's what the Central Ozarks Medical Center's Hometown Hero Award is for every single week. And if you have someone you feel like is deserving of being nominated, go to mylaketv.com, check out our brand new website, go to contact, and scroll down. You'll see an option to nominate a hometown hero. So as we move ahead to some quick ramblings, lots of heroic things going on the last week in the headlines. We had 2 house fires, one in Osage Beach and one in Lynn Creek over the last week. The one in Osage Beach, the firefighters were able to act quickly and really contain it to the garage, meaning a lot of the house and the possessions of the family were saved. And then in Lynn Creek, initially in that modular home fire, it looked like there was still somebody in the house. Well, luckily they were able to find out. Everyone got out, so no tragedy there. As sad as it is to have your house burned down and lose a lot of your possessions, ultimately losing a pet or even bigger, a family member is more important, and both of those were prevented. And then you saw a 19-year-old nearly drown at Hawatonka.
I heard about that, yeah. I mean, floating upside down, face down, had to be given CPR, mouth to mouth, until the paramedics arrived, and apparently she had barely saved her life, went to Lake Regional, but just, 19 years old or something like that?
19 years old, and it said she was pulled back to the surface by a bystander. Park rangers, the Camden County Sheriff's Office, and Mid-County Fire District, along with Mid-County Ambulance, were all on the scene, but pretty crazy because she made it, and it was an innocent bystander that grabbed her and saw that something was wrong, and she made it, which is another miracle. Now, did you see the story from the Osage Beach Fire Department?
I saw that.
With the rogue boat and the people in distress.
How crazy. Kind of reminded me of the shootout last year when that guy fell out of the boat and it's going around.
Right,
you know,
just like that.
Yeah.
You know, that was a heroic really job by the water safety that was on site there to corral that boat and prevent that from causing damage to people's property or hitting the people on shore watching. I mean, that was a dangerous situation, and so was this. It was 11:53. Osage Beach stations were dispatched to a boat in distress. The boat was out of control, and its passengers were hanging from the side of the vessel.
What?
Engine 11 arrived on scene by land, took them just 6 minutes, and found the dispatch information to be true. A nearby jet skier was flagged down, and 2 firefighters, firefighter Holden and firefighter Douglas, boarded the wave runner, the jet ski, to make an attempt to stop the boat. Keeping pace with the circling boat, firefighter Holden jumped from the jet ski and boarded the out-of-control boat, bringing it under control quickly. He and firefighter Douglas then assisted the patients, they said, to safety and assessed for injuries until Marine 11 arrived. Marine 11 safety transported the occupants to a nearby condo complex with no injuries. Thankfully, the vessel and further investigation was turned over to the Missouri State Highway Patrol. They went on to say, we would like to give special recognition to firefighters Holden and Douglas, who exemplified today the duties of a firefighter and putting strangers above themselves. We're proud to have them on department and serving the residents of Osage Beach. They end with, we would ask for assistance in identifying the jet ski drivers who assisted our firefighters today so we can properly recognize them. Not only are our firefighters in Osage Beach heroes, 2 other innocent bystanders that were on their jet skis hopped into action when help was needed.
That's incredible, man. You talk about Superman. So they're jumping from PWCs onto this boat that's out of control. That's amazing. That's like, that's like Hollywood stuff there, you know? That's incredible. And then they get in there. So does it say what happened to the driver? Why was the boat like out of control with no driver?
They said the vessel and further investigation has been turned over to the Missouri State Highway Patrol. So hopefully they'll have some findings or some rulings on that. And so we can share more. They went on to say, our family protecting your family because we care. Good work to the Osage Beach Fire Protection District, Engine 11, as well as Marine 11 for being there on the scene, because that could have turned out much different.
Oh, yeah. And just like the weird thing at the shootout last year where the driver falls out of the boat and it starts circling, both of these instances, obviously, the kill switch wasn't on, and again, this is something I'm guilty of when I take the boat out of not putting, the kill switch on your wrist so that if you do fly off or fall down or something like that, it kills the engine of the boat, so it just stops instead of doing what that happened and just keep going around.
Right.
You know, and it's easy to forget to put that on your wrist or something, but we need to remember to do that.
So you've got the 2 fires, you've got the near drowning at Hawatonka, you got the rogue boat out of control. You know, the only thing we're missing for acts of heroism around the Lake of the Ozarks, how about a dispatcher helping deliver twins over the phone?
Wow.
Yeah,
No.
I saw this article.
Did this happen really?
One of the last thing on the mind of Camden County dispatcher Amy Hufford was when she woke up on Wednesday that she would help deliver twin babies during a 911 call, and that's exactly what happened to her, who says she let out a big sigh of relief when the call came to an end and the babies were born without any issues. This from KRMS News. Unbelievable. Her name, Amy Hufford, I believe. Unreal. That's 5 stories over the last couple of weeks that we just covered on acts of heroes and selflessness and answering the call when you're needed, just in our local community. Phenomenal.
Wow. How about that, doing that over the phone? Actually, now that I think about it, I think I'd rather do it over the phone than be there in person.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
I mean, it'd be a little less messy and stuff.
Bingo. Bingo.
Wow.
So that was cool. And you look at, you know, just all 5 of those, including the boat crash, the viral boat crash, where those 7 lived. Those were 6 stories. All could have been very tragic.
Yeah.
Instead, we're talking about them as good stories and, you know, the good news we have to share. So praise God on those. And man, don't you just love living down here with these people?
It's the best place to live. And it's funny, a lot of people you've run into lately are bigwigs that have moved here from cities because they wanted to get out of the craziness, because this is the least crazy place in the world right now. Yeah, we are so fortunate and blessed to live right here.
And you know what everybody says, and I've said this my whole life, but what really sets the Lake of the Ozarks apart, it's not just the water, it's not just the water sports and the shopping and the dining and the attractions and the events. It truly is the people, the locals that make the Lake of the Ozarks what it is. And those 5 stories, that's exactly the epitome of who these people are and why we're so fortunate to live here. All right, so as we move ahead, we look at some things coming up on Lake TV. The duck drop is going to be live on Lake TV's Facebook page this weekend.
On the Facebook page,
yes,
right?
Not all Lake TV platforms, just on Lake TV's Facebook page. For other upcoming events, check out our guy, David Leatherberry, with Weekend at the Lake every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Great segment, airs numerous times a day. You can't miss it, but he really shares everything that's going on in the upcoming weeks around the lake.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, you know what we didn't mention was our staff outing. We took the boat out.
Oh, yeah,
had a great time, you know.
Thanks again.
How you bet.
To you
that was
and
fun.
Mrs. Uncle C for taking us out. A great dinner at Papa Chubby's. Got to cove out for a little bit. Just a great time. And, you know, the crew worked so hard. We all are always running and gunning to get out of the normal hustle and bustle.
I was surprised
so much fun.
at, you know, when Andy, our director of photography, took off his shirt. I was surprised he had like a 6-pack under there. You know, I mean, maybe it was a 24-pack. I don't know, but it was pretty impressive.
Well, I'd like to say, you know, for you making that statement, you got a heck of a keg going on to be calling out Andy.
I didn't take my shirt off, though, you know, hey.
But Andy was confident enough to get in the water. Yeah. That guy's a fish, you know. Hey, don't be throwing stones if you live in a somewhat glass house over there,
Look out, girls. Andy's still single, so, you know, there you go.
I love it. All right, so some things happening on Lake TV. Of course, our doc series has been amazing.
Oh, so good.
Only seems to be getting better. I'm so excited for you guys to see some of the upcoming episodes. You got to check out the Lake TV Community Spotlight. Their Chief Nursing Officer, Candia Edson, she's phenomenal.
Yep, absolutely.
You get to know her a little bit and hear some of the amazing things Central Ozarks Medical Center is doing in our community. Plus, Happy Hour with DJ Kyle every day at 7, 5, and 11. And they just put into the show this last week the Beneteau Cruiser feature, which that boat sold now already at Surdite. Can you believe that? That thing was incredible, the Gran Turismo. Now, we've also got a new hunting show that will be exciting.
Fishing show.
I keep saying hunting.
Yeah.
It's a fishing show that we found. And this is going to be really cool. We're hoping to talk with the host and producer of that show in the near future.
Awesome. Great stuff. Be watching for that on Lake TV. And the high school football season's coming, right? With you and a Hall of Famer.
Mike Bissell going to be joining us only because Mrs. Uncle C said she wanted you home on Friday nights. So you're taking Friday off. So in comes Mike Bissell. We're looking forward.
That'll be a step up.
I don't know about that. It's hard to duplicate what you and I have done the last 4 years together. Mike will give it a good try, though. I promise you that. Well, we're out of time for this week on Cup of Coffee. Until next week, big shout out to Slumberland Furniture. We'll see you guys in a week.